I want to start today's episode a little differently. I want to start by acknowledging something that doesn't get said enough. If you are in your 60s, 70s, or beyond, you have likely known loss. Real loss. A spouse, a sibling, a close friend who knew you before the world changed, a parent, and unfortunately sometimes maybe even a child. And if you have known that kind of loss, you know that grief is not something that follows a schedule. It doesn't finish in a week or a month or even a year. It lives with you. It changes shape over time, but it stays. Today's episode is about grief and technology. Specifically, how the internet and the devices in our hands have quietly become one of the most powerful tools that grieving people have ever had to access. But also how that same technology has opened doors that no one quite knows how to walk through just yet. Doors that raise questions we have never had to ask as a society before. This is not a light episode, and to be honest with you, this is probably my third or fourth time trying to film it. But I think it's one of the most important ones we have done in this series so far. Welcome to The Mind and the Machine. This is episode 7. For most of human history, grief was something you processed with people physically around you. Your community, your faith community, your neighbors, the people who showed up at your door with food and just bringing their presence to spend time with you. And that was beautiful. And it still matters today. But here is what many of us know and don't always say out loud. Grief is not evenly distributed. Some people are surrounded by community and others are not. Maybe you live alone. Maybe you move to a new city later in life and your network is still being built. Maybe your closest friends are gone too and there's no one left who knew your person the way that you did. Maybe you live in a small town in rural Canada or a village in the English countryside or a quiet suburb in the American Midwest, and the nearest grief support group is an hour away. Or maybe you grieve quietly, privately, and the idea of sitting in a circle and talking to strangers in person feels like too much. For millions of people, especially older adults, that was simply the reality of grief. You carried it largely alone. And then the internet changed something. Researchers who study bereavement have identified something remarkable about how older adults use technology during grief. They use it differently than they use it for anything else. The 3 things that grieving people say technology gives them that traditional support sometimes cannot are immediacy, anonymity, and choice. Let's take those one at a time. Immediacy. Grief doesn't wait for office hours. It doesn't happen on a schedule. It hits you at that 2 a.m. when you reach for someone who isn't there. It hits you on a Tuesday afternoon when a song comes on the radio that you both shared. It hits you in the grocery store in front of the brand of soup that they always liked. With the internet, help is available at 2 a.m. Online grief communities, forums, support groups, they are populated by people in every time zone, every stage of loss, around the clock. You are never truly alone with your grief if you have a device in your hand and know where to look. Anonymity. This one matters more than people realize. Grief can bring with it feelings we are not proud of, anger, sometimes at the person we lost, relief, and then shame about the relief, loneliness so profound it feels embarrassing to admit. In a room full of people who know you, those feelings can be very hard to share. But online, behind a username, in a community of strangers who understand your specific loss, people share things they have never said out loud to anyone. And they find, often for the first time, that what they are feeling is not shameful, it's human. Choice. This is the one that surprises people the most. Traditional grief support such as counseling, group therapy, community check-ins, it requires you to engage on someone else's terms. Online, you engage on your own terms. You can read without posting. You can post without responding. You can step away when it becomes too much and come back when you're ready. For older adults in particular, that sense of control in a moment when everything feels out of control is not a small thing. It is profoundly important. Let me tell you where people are actually finding support online, because it might surprise you. Facebook groups. I know, we spent an entire episode talking about the problems with Facebook, and those problems are real. But grief communities on Facebook are genuinely different. They are private, closed groups for widows and widowers, for people who have lost a child, for people grieving a sibling, for people navigating the long, slow grief of watching someone they love fade away to dementia. These groups are moderated. They are warm. They are populated by people who are not there to perform happiness. They are there because they are hurting, and they want to be around people who understand. Research shows these communities reduce feelings of isolation and provide something that is genuinely rare. People who can say, I know exactly what that feels like, and actually mean it. Video calling is another one. For older adults who have lost a spouse or a partner, FaceTime calls and WhatsApp video chats with children, grandchildren, and friends have become a daily lifeline. It is not the same as being in the room together, but everyone knows that. But a face, a voice, the ability to be seen and see someone you love, that matters enormously when the house is very quiet. And then there are grief podcasts, YouTube channels, and online courses run by counselors and therapists that bring professional level support into people's homes for free or for a very low cost. In the United Kingdom, in Canada, and in the United States, millions of older adults are quietly using these tools to process the hardest experience of their lives. And most of them don't talk about it. Now, I want to talk about something that many of you are already doing, perhaps without realizing how significant it is. You are preserving the people you have loved in the digital world. Photos uploaded to Google Photos or iCloud, videos saved on your phone, voice messages that you can't bring yourself to delete, email threads you go back to and you read. For many grieving people, these digital archives have become something sacred. A 30-second video of a voice you loved. A photo that captures a smile exactly as you remember it. A text conversation from an ordinary Tuesday that now feels like a treasure. Researchers who work with bereaved older adults describe this as continuing bonds theory. The idea that healthy grief does not mean letting go. It means finding a new way to maintain your connection to the person you've lost. Digital archives allow you to do exactly that. And there is nothing strange or unhealthy about going back to those photos, those videos, those messages. Not at all. That is love, expressed through the tools that we have available. Now I need to talk about something that is newer, something that is happening right now in 2026 that raises questions our society is only just beginning to grapple with. Because some of you may have already come across this, and if you haven't, you will soon. There are now companies, real, operating businesses that use artificial intelligence to recreate deceased loved ones. I'll say that again. Using recordings, photos, emails, text messages, and social media history, these services can create an AI version of someone who has died. One that responds to your messages, one that sounds like them, one that references things they actually said. Some services create a chatbot you can text with. Others use voice cloning so you can hear their voice again. A small number are developing video-based avatars. This is not science fiction. This is available today. And I want to be very careful here because I'm not going to stand here and tell you how to feel about it. Because grief is deeply personal, and the people who use these services are not confused or foolish or living in denial. They are people who loved someone and missed them terribly, and they are reaching for whatever connection is available. And I understand that personally. But I do think you deserve an honest conversation about what the research and experts are saying. Grief counselors, psychologists, and ethicists across North America and Europe are raising some important questions about AI grief technology. The first question is about consent. The person who died never agreed to become a digital entity that continues to interact with the people they left behind. Their words, their voice, their personality are now being simulated by an algorithm that does not truly know them. Is that something they would have wanted? For most of us, that question has no answer because we really never thought to ask. The second question is about healing. Grief, as painful as it is also a process, a journey from one version of yourself to another. Some grief therapists are concerned that AI recreations of the deceased may interrupt that journey. That instead of moving through grief, some people may use these tools to avoid it. To stay in a relationship that can never grow, never surprise you, never truly give back. The third question is about exploitation. The people who are most likely to pay for a service that recreates a deceased loved one are people who are actively grieving, which means they are, by definition, in one of the most vulnerable states a human being can be in. And some of these services are expensive. Some are subscription-based. The ethics of charging a grieving person monthly fees to interact with a simulation of someone they love, that is a conversation our society urgently needs to have. I'm not telling you these services are wrong. I'm telling you to go in with your eyes open and to ask the hard questions before you spend money or emotional energy on something that may not give you what you're truly looking for. I want to say something now that I think is important to hold on to. Technology at its best can reduce isolation. It can connect you to community. It can help you preserve memories. It can give you access to support at 3 a.m. when no one else is awake. Those are real gifts, and I believe in them genuinely. But technology cannot grieve with you. It cannot sit in the silence with you and understand what that silence means. It cannot hold your hand. It cannot share a memory that only the two of you knew. It cannot grow and change alongside you the way a living relationship does. The best use of technology in grief is as a bridge to real communities, to real people, to real connection. Not as a destination, not as a substitute. And if you find yourself using technology in a way that is keeping you away from people, rather than drawing you towards them, that is worth paying attention to. Not with judgment, but with kindness towards yourself. Let me give you something concrete to take away. First, find your community. Search Facebook groups for grief support specific to your type of loss. Widow and widower groups for people who have lost a sibling, groups for caregivers grieving the slow loss of someone to dementia. These groups exist, and they are free, and the people in them are not strangers for long. Second, protect your digital memories. Back up your photos and videos to a cloud service, such as Google Photos or iCloud, or even Amazon Photos. If those precious files only exist on one device and that device breaks or is lost, they're gone, and they're gone forever. Take 30 minutes this week to make sure that they are backed up. It is one of the most important things that you can do. Third, use video calling intentionally. Schedule regular video calls with people that matter to you, not just when there is news to share, just to see each other. Grief heals in relationship, and a face on a screen is a real face. Fourth, if you are curious about AI grief tools, go slowly. Research the company thoroughly. Read reviews from real users. Talk to a grief counselor first if you are able to. And never pay large amounts of money in an emotional moment without giving yourself at least 48 hours to think it through. Fifth, know when to reach beyond the screen. If your grief is becoming overwhelming, if you are struggling to function, struggling to sleep, struggling to find reasons to keep going, please talk with someone. In Canada, you can call or text 988 for the Suicide Crisis Helpline. And in the United States, it is also 988. In the United Kingdom, you can call 116-123 for Samaritans. Technology is a bridge, but some bridges need another person on the other side. Now, I want to end today by saying something directly to anyone who is grieving right now. You are not weak for missing someone. You are not broken for still feeling it years later, because I know it. You're not alone. Even when the house is very quiet and the world outside doesn't seem to notice. And the fact that you reached for your phone or your laptop or this video looking for something, even if you weren't sure what, that is not a sign of desperation. That is a sign you are still reaching toward connection, and that matters. I'd like to ask you to do something in the comments today. You don't have to share anything personal. But if technology has helped you through a difficult time, through grief, through loneliness, or through something hard, I would love to know. Because I think we all need to be reminded that these tools, when used with intention, can be genuinely good. Now, next week on The Mind and the Machine, we're talking about fighting loneliness with a smartphone. Does it actually work? What does the research say? And what is the difference between connection that heals and scrolling that just fills the void? I'm Michael, and this is Tech for Grown-Ups. Take care of yourselves this week, and I mean that. And I will see you next week.